There is someone who you want to notice you, and you don't know how to go about garnering his attention, without actively going up to him. Because making a direct approach, asking them out, that's more of a masculine thing than a feminine thing, right? And it is. However, that doesn't mean that you can't be the reason for why things start to go in the direction that you want them to. How do men typically get women? By directly approaching her. How do women typically get men? By advertising herself to him. You see, the masculine pursues, but the feminine invites. And that's exactly what we're going to focus on. What are the best feminine ways that get a man to notice you and then eventually ask you out? So let's look at the most common way right now. How do you get a guy to notice you on social media without, just sliding into those DMs? Well, one way to do it is to like his posts semi-regularly. Showing good engagement means that your account will come up most when he sees who's liked his photos. Plus, he gets that endorphin hit every time he sees your profile like a photo of his. However, the reason you don't want to be liking every photo of his is because you don't want to come across as a fan to him. He may think it's cool, but it's good to leave a little bit back, something that he can work for. Another way to do it on social media is by watching his stories. Watching his stories as much as you want. And you don't need to hold back on this. Because one, there's no way of telling how many times someone does watch your story. So we could have watched their story 10 to 20 times over and they would have no clue. But two, when he checks who's watched his story, your name is going to be near the top. If you didn't know, when you look on your story and you see who's watched your story, the top dozen or so people are the people who engage with your account the most. That includes likes, watching stories, even social media stalking. Now you may think, oh God, this does make me seem too keen. But the reason this actually works in your favor is because you want him to consistently and regularly see your name. And him doing that starts to build a subconscious relationship with your profile. And he won't even know it's happening. Too keen would be you liking all his current posts and all of his previous posts. But watching his story all the time, you don't need to worry about that. And so as he builds this subconscious relationship of seeing your name there, when you don't watch his story, he'll notice, like really notice. And he'll think, hey, why hasn't Olivia seen my story today? To which he'll probably check your story and your profile to see what you're up to. Why are you so busy to not have your attention on him? And building on the next feminine way to have a guy notice you online is to occasionally respond to his stories, like once every couple of weeks or something. And when I say respond, I mean just an emoji, like a fire emoji or a claps emoji, whatever's appropriate to the story. While this is you initiating contact, it actually is an avenue for him to start a conversation with you. So it seems like he's technically messaged you first. See how that works? Now, let's focus on the best feminine way to get a guy to notice you in the real world. The easiest, most effective way to get a guy to notice you when you're out and about is a simple yet very effective approach that you can apply to 90% of situations, whether it's a coffee shop or a restaurant or an event. And doing this can actually make a guy come to you. And that is by sending him choosing signals. Choosing signals are social cues that lets a guy know that you're interested in him. I mean, how many times has a guy not approached you when you've been out somewhere when you wanted him to? Did you send him any choosing signals? If so, what did you send? Here is a very simple example of how to send choosing signals that you can start implementing from tomorrow and get more guys to notice you. First is to get into his peripheral vision. He can't notice you if he's not looking in your direction. And then next, when you are there, is just to look, smile, and wave. That's it. Make eye contact with him, smile at him, and give a very small wave. Most guys won't approach you unless you are giving them a very clear signal. Because without that, the ones that do approach you are the kind of guys who approach every girl at the bar. And they're usually not the guys that you want because those guys you didn't send any choosing signals to. Now look, smile, or wave might seem a bit direct, but you have to be direct to some degree if you want him to directly approach you. You have to make it crystal clear to him. A lot of women purely rely on making very little eye contact alone. Not even eye contact, more like a glance. But if you're not smiling, or worse, you just have resting bitch face, he's just gonna think that you're judging him, and that makes you extremely unapproachable. That makes him notice you for all the wrong reasons. Now let's look at an environment that's becoming more common: at the gym. There's a guy at your gym and you want to catch his attention. Now, usually for most guys, you just walking and kind of low-key parading yourself in front of him, that is going to be enough for him to notice you, especially if you're wearing tight-fitted gym wear. Honestly, some gym wear actually has a designed outline of the bum. Like, what purpose does that serve if not for people to look? But what if the guy that you're crushing on is one of the regulars, and he's one of those rare breeds of men that when he is focused on training, he doesn't get distracted by attractive women. He's not distracted by any attractive woman around him. Often when you're there and you see him, he is in the zone. He is focused. He's not one of those guys who's just constantly looking around, or a guy who's just on his phone on holding the machine for 10-15 minutes. When he's there on a mission and with a purpose. Maybe you've tried to get his attention by walking in front of him, maybe even swishing your hair across as you do walk in front of it. And the irony is, the fact that when he's training, he doesn't get distracted by just an attractive girl is probably one of the things that makes him quite desirable as a guy. The irony of him not looking your way makes you want him to look your way even more. And so because of this, the best way of getting this kind of man to notice you is by asking for his help on a weight or on a machine. It could be to spot you, it could be to show you how something works. But you asking for his help isn't you hitting on him. You're just one trainer asking another trainer for professional help. But what this actually does is that this gives him permission to look at you, gives him permission to engage with you. Remember, the masculine pursues, the feminine invites. And of course, he'll say yes to, helping you. And so when is the best time to do this? How do you do this in a way that is, subtle and chill as opposed to overt and, obvious? You do it on a machine that he is currently working on. Like, let's say he's doing arms that day and he's on, the arm curling machine. Once he's done a few sets, go up to him and say, hey, mind showing me how this machine works? I've never actually used it before. And this really only comes across as subtle when it's on a machine that he's currently using. Because obviously, if you're going to go use a machine, but then you go to the other side of the gym to ask for his help, that's a little bit more obvious. Now, the great thing about this particular situation is that there's a really easy way to see whether he's feeling you or not. If he finds you attractive, if he's enjoying engaging with you. And it's the precise reason why I now say the time at which you go up to that machine is when you've seen him do a few sets. You see, if he's an avid gym goer and he works on his physique quite effectively, I assume he's in great shape, otherwise he wouldn't be your gym crush, then he knows, as most effective gym goers know, the most effective number of sets for each exercise is anywhere between 3 to 5. Too few sets and you're not really doing anything, you're just getting a pump, you're not actually tearing the muscle. And too many sets, you're doing at a point of diminishing return. So if you don't approach him at the machine until you've seen him do a few sets, it means when you do approach, it's likely he only has 1, maximum 2 sets left in his regular routine. But obviously, because you just got there, you've only just started your sets. So if you find that you're both using it and you're rotating and taking it in turns, doing each other's sets, and you find that when you come to that machine, he does another 3 or 4 sets with you, that is a very good sign that he likes you, that he's feeling your vibe, that he's attracted to you to some degree, because it means that he's doing extra sets just to maintain being engaged with you. You see how that works? And so by that point, all that's left for you to do is to be showing off that smile and to be having a friendly energy towards him. And from that point, it's going to be very difficult for him to see you around the gym and to not notice you and be probably smiling your way. At that point, it's only a matter of time before he asks for your number or for your Insta, and then you start chatting outside the gym. And that will probably happen after he sees you at the gym another few more times. So if you're ready to know how to date in a way that does lead to a relationship when the guy asks you out, then enroll in my Claim Your Man program below, where I show you how to do exactly that. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, keep it slick.